Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om 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 Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena gratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatvamanusandathami Bhagavad Gite Bhavadveshini Namostu te Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Pullara Patra Netra Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Purna Prajvalito Jnanamaya Pradipaha Prapanna Parijataya Totra Vetraikapanaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Gītāmrita duhe namaha Sarvopanishado gavo Dogdha gopalanandana Partho vatsa sudhir bhokta Dugdham Gītāmritam mahat Vasudeva sutam devam Kamsa chanuramadhanam Devaki paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Bhishmadrona Tatajayadratha Gandhara Nilotpala Shalyagrahavati Kripena Vahani Karnena Velakula Ashwathama Vikarna Ghora Makara Duryodhana Vartini Suttirna Kalu Pandavairana Nadi Kaivartaka Keshavaha Parasharya Vachasarojamamalam Gitartha Gandhodkatam Nanakyanaka Kesaram Harikatha Sambodhana Bodhitam Loke Sajjana Shatpadairaharaha Pepiyamanam Muda Bhuyad Bharata Pankajam Kalimala Pradhvamsina Shreyase Mukhaṁ karoti vācālam Pankhum langayate girim Yatkripātamaham vande Paramananda madhavam Yam brahma varunendra rudra maruta Stunvanti divyaistavaihi Vedais sāṅgapadakramopanishadair Gayanti yam samagaha Dhyanavastita tadgatena manasa Pashyanti yam yogino Yasyantam na vidussura suragana Devaya tasmai namaha Devaya tasmai namaha Devaya tasmai namaha. We are studying the 5th chapter, the Vibhuti Yoga, glimpses of the divine glory or the manifestations of the divine glory of the Lord. Arjuna asked the question, you are the Supreme Brahman, Param Brahma, Param Dhama. 12th verse onwards, he says, from the 12th verse to the 18th verse, Arjuna requests Sri Krishna to reveal his nature. Without the Lord revealing His own nature, we cannot, as ordinary human beings, understand Him. Tumi na jana le pore ke tumai jante pare. Sri Ramakrishna used to sing this song. If you do not let me know, who can understand you? You cannot be understood. And why is it necessary for us to understand the Lord? Once we are intellectually convinced and once we are emotionally also convinced, then it is easy for us to seek the divine or to follow the path of seeing the divine. Therefore, these vibhutis, these glories of the divine are essential. So that's why he says, Param Brahma, you are the supreme Brahman. Param Dhama, you are the supreme abode. And you are Purusham, Shashvatam Purusham, you are the eternal divine person. And Divyam, you are the divinity incarnate or the divinity supreme. Ahustvam, all the rishis have proclaimed this, that you are the highest, the supreme being. That is, you are the only thing that we need to seek after. We are seeking after so many things in this world, but those things which we seek in the world, they remain for a short period and they go away after a short period. Therefore, he says that it is essential that we need to know your real nature. Ahustvam rishayas sarve. All the rishis have proclaimed this. Narada, Asita, Devala, Vyasa, all of these great sages have mentioned you or have taught about you or have realized you. And you yourself also must tell, because when it comes from you, then there is no doubt. Who knows whether some rishi has had this particular experience or not? It might be just the imagination of his or her mind. That's why when Sri Ramakrishna used to talk about his divine visions, many people used to doubt. He said, oh, maybe it is a derangement of your brain. Even Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda himself sometimes used to say, oh, those are the imaginations of your mind. So Sri Ramakrishna would go to the Divine Mother and say, Naren, who is so intelligent, if he is saying that this is the imagination of my mind, is that so, Mother? And then the Divine Mother would say, do not bother, he is a child, he is a mere child. Do not worry about what he says. So that is what it is. So he says here that if the Divine himself reveals his nature, then nobody can doubt. That is the idea. So this is direct revelation. Sarvam etat, in the 14th verse, Sri Krishna said, Sarvam etat ritam manye. See, I deem all of this as true. I consider all of this as true. Ritam and Satyam. These are the two words that we get in Vedic lore or Vedic philosophy. Ritam. Ritam means that which is the very basis of a being. See, all of us need some basis. We are now standing or sitting on the floor. That is the basis of our existence. Without that, we cannot exist. Therefore, there needs to be a basis. And that is called as the Ritam. And Satya, or truth, is that which makes us move forward, that which takes us forward. One is that which holds you to the ground, grounds you down, and the other is that which allows you to lead a life wherein you do not be subjected to too much of misery. Miseries may come, but they will not be long lasting for you. So, Sarvametad Ritan Manye Yan Mam Keshava Vadati. Whatever you have told, I consider it as true, as real. But sometimes in Vedanta, these two words, Ritam and Satyam, are interchanged. That means they may be used at different times. Like he is using it here. Here he is using it as the Satya, that is truth. What you have said is true. Then Nahite Bhagavan Vyaktim Vidur Deva Nadanavaha. O Lord, neither the Devas or nor the Danavas know what your manifestation is. What are your manifestations? Only even they do not know. Who are the Devas? Devas are enlightened beings who have performed lot of good things, and so they have risen to a level higher than the humans. Deva, Danava, Gandharva. So all of these different stages of existence are there. So we are the lowest, so to say, the human beings. So above this comes the Gandharvas. That means those who are equipped with extraordinary talents, arts and all that. Those are called the Gandharvas. And then higher than them are the Devas. Devas have the power to help we human beings to lead a more comfortable and more unified life. So they are called the Devas. Deva means their bodies are made out of light. Our bodies are made out of the 5 elements, isn't it? So the Devas' bodies are made out of light. So, but still, they are beings. They will have to one day realize the truth, the highest truth, for which the scriptures say they will have to take birth as a human being and then go and reach the highest. That's necessary. So that's why this human birth is considered so very sacred. It is considered so very important. Even the Devas have to become humans in order to achieve to the highest. So, after a lot of good deeds, performing a lot of good deeds, but with some motive. Maybe it is the motive may be that I will enjoy the life hereafter in the heaven or in some other spheres. So they had that kind of a desire, and they have performed all their actions in order to achieve to that. So such persons are called the Devas, but they are not there permanently. Their term will change. Another person will go and take that the place of that Deva. So those beings are not permanent or not there at all times, but they will be exchanged. The title will remain the same, but the beings will change again and again. That is the opinion of our scriptures. So here he says, even the Devas, they do not understand you. Danavas are other beings, so even they do not know what that is your manifestation. So, Swayamevatmanatmanam vettattvam purushottama bhuta bhavana bhutesha deva deva jagatpate. Swayameva atmana, you yourself have spoken about it. See, this is the dilemma. The Lord himself says that I come again and again and I reveal myself to you, but we still do not want to understand. Even when the Lord comes as a human being, not many people recognize the divine. Sri Ramakrishna says, when Sri Rama was born, he mentions about Sri Rama. There were so many rishis who were all elevated beings, but they could not recognize that the Lord has come in their midst. They could not understand it. It is only a few, like Vashishta, Vishwamitra and others, they only a handful of them could identify the divine. See, the Lord always comes shrouded, that means covered. And therefore we do not understand him, we do not recognize the divine. So in order for us to recognize the divine, what is required is purity of heart. The purity, if it is pure, if there is no other desire except that I want God. Then when He comes we are able to recognize. Like the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. So many people used to come to Kali temple. Sri Ramakrishna himself says, so many of them come here. But as soon as they see me talking to anyone about the divine, they would say, enough of this, we go. We will go. We will go and go around the garden, Kali temple's garden. So, even when the divine comes, we cannot understand it. But if the heart is pure, if it is totally free of ashas and akanksha's, these are the two words which comes again and again in our language. Asha is the desire and akanksha's are expectations. Desires and expectations. If we are without desires and expectations, then the divine will reveal himself. Even if there is a little bit of impurity in us, we cannot see. Holy Mother Sharda Devi used to pray, and she used to look at the moon. Said, "O Lord, even in the moon, which is considered to be very pure, even in the moon, there are some dots or there are some black spots. May my mind behave in such a manner or remain in such a manner that there is not even a single spot in me. There is not even a single spot in me." That is Holy Mother's prayer. So all of us invariably should have that prayer in our day-to-day daily life, so to say. Swayamevatmanatmanam. The purpose of the divine being born as a human being is to facilitate the meditation or thinking or thoughts about God through His glories, His divine glories, vibhutis. So He says, Purushottama, you are the best among all beings. You have all the great qualities manifest in you, and we cannot find so much of love, so much of compassion anywhere. Once Yam, the author of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, was with Sri Ramakrishna, and Sri Ramakrishna asked him, "Well, what do you think of me?" Yam, without mincing any words, he directly said, "I have not seen so much of knowledge. I have not seen so much of love. I have not seen so much of compassion anywhere. Not even in my parents, not even in my mother. I have not seen such." That is the Lord. He is full of that. That is why it is called as Purusha Uttama, the best among all beings, Purusha. And then he says, Bhuta Bhavana, he is the creator, he is the progenitor, he is the father. Everything has its origin in the divine. Bhuta Bhavana, Bhutesha, I am the Lord of all. Bhuta Bhavana, Bhutesha, Deva Deva, you are the God of all gods. Behind all the regulatory bodies, He is present. Regulatory, He regulates everything, so to say. He is the highest. He has the highest power amongst all. Bhuta Bhava, Bhutesha, Deva Deva and Jagatpate. He is the ruler of all the worlds, Jagatpate. Not only of all beings, but of the entire universe. He is the Jagatpate. All these are vibhutis that helps us to meditate, when we see something which is very beautiful, when we see something which has got wonderful qualities, let us try to notice the divine behind all of that. When we see a beautiful person, when we see a beautiful flower, behind that let us think about the divine which is present there. That is the idea here. Vaktumarhasya sheshena divyāhyātma vibhūtayah yābhir vibhūtibhir lokan imam stvam vyāpya tishthati. Vaktum arhasi asheshena. He says, you should speak to me in entirety. Asheshena means without hiding anything. You should speak to me without any reservation. Entirety of those divine manifestations of thy glory, whereby pervading all these worlds, thou abidest in them and beyond. See, one can demand what we need from our parents. Sri Ramakrishna says. Of course, nowadays it's a bit different, but generally one can demand one's bequeathment from one's parents. Likewise, Sri Arjuna here is demanding from the Lord so that he can reveal himself through Arjuna to us also. Our minds are so little, so limited that the mind is not powerful enough to understand or to grasp the thought of the divine. Therefore, even these little things like the glories of the divine, if we can start thinking about it, the sum total of all such thoughts will keep us rooted in the divine. See? As they say, following the rays of the sun, one can see the sun also. Or we can see the sun in a mirror. Otherwise, our eyes will get burnt. So instead of that, if we follow the rays of the sun, we cannot follow the rays of the sun all the time except early in the morning. But in midday like this, if you bring in a mirror, then you are able to see the sun. In the same way, we can see his reflection in the avatara, in the manifestation of the divine. So, Leela Dhyana, thinking of the Leelas, that means the glories of the divine, is a very powerful practice of meditation in our life. If we can do that, then it becomes very easy. Many great saints, they do not directly meditate upon the divine itself because mind wanders here and there. Instead of that, the mind goes, okay, the Lord Sri Krishna was here in this Vrindavan. So you go on a pilgrimage and see all the places associated with the divine, and you keep on thinking of the Lord. You go to Kamarpukur or Jairambati or to Dakshineshwar, and then you keep on, oh, Sri Ramakrishna played here, Sri Ramakrishna went to his school over here, Sri Ramakrishna worshipped this deity over here, and it is here that he went into his first samadhi while enacting the role of Lord Shiva. Like this, you keep on, if your mind is wandering here or there, instead of that, let it wander to those places of pilgrimage. That is why pilgrimage, going on pilgrimage is considered to be one of the great duties of devotees in all religions, whether it be in Islam or in Christianity or even in Hinduism. It is the same. So we have so many places of pilgrimage. In Hinduism, we can go mentally, we can travel all. By that, we are absorbing the thought of the divine or the glories of the divine within our own heart, and then our heart becomes purer and purer, cleaner and cleaner. So Leela Dhyana. Ashe Vaktum Arhashi Asheshena Divyahi Atma Vibhutaya Pradhanyata Yabhir Vibhuti Pirlokan Imanstam Vyapya Tishtati. So you abide in them and beyond. You are there in it, but also beyond it. That is the idea. And then in the next verse, he continues, Katham vidyamaham yogin tvam sada parichintayan keshu keshu cha bhaveshu chintyosi bhagavan maya. Katham vidyamaham katham vidyam. Hey yogin, O yogin, how am I to know thee? How am I to know you? Through constant meditation. Can I know you through constant meditation? Sada parichintan. Keshu keshu cha bhaveshu. In what aspects should you be contemplated upon by me, O Lord? In what are the aspects that I must take into account in order to know you better? See, how to know God, how to understand where God is or how God is. All of this question comes to our mind sometimes. So he said, Satata Chintana. One of the great disciplines is Satata Chintana. Satata means constant remembrance. See, it's not enough just to have a Sunday religion, as we call it. Just to sit on a Sunday and study the Bhagavad Gita, or go to a church or a temple or a mosque on one particular day, and the rest of the day you become non-spiritual. No, that is not it. You have to be spiritual every moment of your life. That is why anything that you do must become spiritual. That alone can give us eternal peace and eternal joy. Nothing else can give us. See, why do we go into depression every now and then? It is because of our refusal to think of the divine, that is the source of all energy, source of all inspiration. We do not spend enough time for it. That's why that constant remembrance, whatever we do, whatever we think, let us bring in an element of the divine in it. Even if it is something not so spiritual, even in that we should bring in the thought of the divine. That is why Sri Krishna, Arjuna is asking this question, Vistarena Atmana Yogam Vibhutincha Janardana. You tell me in great detail, Katham Vidyamaham Yogin Tvam Sada Parichintayan. How do I know you, Yogin? Through who is a Yogin? A yogi is one who has connected, has developed that connection with the divine. Once you are connected to the source, see, if we do not, we may have all the devices over here, everything ready, but if there is no connection to the grid, it is of no use at all. See, that connection should be there, and that connection must be made. We must make an effort. We must apply to energetics to give us a connection to this building. So otherwise we will not be able to get that. Or we will not be able to get the power here. In order to get the power, we need to apply that application, or we call in spiritual life supplication. Application or supplication. We make an application with sincere effort, with the required amount that we need to pay, with the required effort that we need to put. Once we make that application, then it's a matter of time before it comes to us. Our home will be illuminated. So he says here, we need something, and katham vidyamaham yogin tvam sada parichintayan Keshu keshu cha bhaveshu chintyosi bhagavanmaya. In what all aspects should you be contemplated upon by me, O Lord? See, we have to have a base within ourselves. We have to build that base within ourselves. If I have to grow a creeper here in the garden, what I need to do is to provide a proper structure for the creeper to grow, isn't it? We have to have a trellis, either a trellis or even some posts or wooden posts, so that the creeper can grow and it can spread. So that is called as the adhara or the support. If there is no support, then the creeper cannot grow, or it may grow haphazardly, which will look very ugly. So the climbers of our mind, the trellis of our mind are the qualities, the gunas, the rupa, the form, and then the charita, the story about the divine. See, all ancient cultures have these three things. One is, there is always explanation about the qualities, there is always explanation about how it looks, and there is a story behind everything. Everything that is done in the world. For example, our indigenous and First Nation people here in Australia, they have wonderful stories. All of them, they remind them who they are, and it's all full of imagery. Lot of imagery is there, lot of names are there, lot of forms are there, lot of stories are associated with each of them. So that is why we have what is called as the Puranas, Itihasas and Puranas. In our Hinduism, we have what is called as Itihasa. That is the history. They really took place. And then there are the Puranas. Puranas are the stories, those which are ancient, but yet they are Nava. They are Pura eva Nava. But that means even if they are old, but yet they are new. That means we can tell those stories now, we can read about it, we can try to understand it, and we can find those examples in our life, even in this age, that is called as the Purana. So that is why this reading of the Puranas, reading of the Itihasas is an integral part of the life of a religious person. So, Katham Vidyam Aham Yogin. And then he says, Keshu Keshu cha Bhaveshu, with what attitude should I think of you? See, all this time, Arjuna was thinking of Sri Krishna mostly as his friend, sometimes as a cousin, and very rarely he would get a glimpse of the divine personality of Sri Krishna, very rarely. But now that Sri Krishna has started teaching him, and then he is trying to reveal his own glory, now his interest in it and his aspiration to know more and more about the divine has increased. Therefore he says that I want to think of you. And then we need to also ask the divine to reveal him. That's what it is. If we do not ask, it will not open. Ask and it shall be revealed unto you. Knock and it shall be opened unto you, says Christ. So we need to knock. We need to ask. If we do not ask, we will think, all right, the child is playing with its toys, so I don't have to bother. The mother will be very happy doing her cooking or doing her work, housework. The same way, God also is happy if you are happy, if we are happy with playing with this toy called the world. So he says, Vistarena Atmano Yogam Vibhutim cha Janardana Bhuyah Kathaya Triptirhi Shrinvato na asti me amritam. Tell me again and again of your divine powers and majesties, for I am ever eager to hear more and more of that, of thy nectarine words. See how you have become the universe. I want to know. See, if we dig deeper into the earth, what do we find if we go deeper and deeper? We find rocks, isn't it? We find stone and rocks. The same stones and rocks, when it grows, it becomes the hill, it becomes the mountain. Now for us, we look at the mountain and see, what a wonderful mountain is, what wonderful granite or what wonderful rocks they are. And we try to scale the mountain, or we try to go up the hill and so on and so forth. But not many are aware that the root of all of that is down beneath, underneath the soil, underneath the ground, and the whole of the earth is full of the rock. It itself comes and manifests. So we see the external world, we are now seeing the external world and say, what a beauty, what a wonderful universe, what a wonderful world the Lord has created. But we need to go deeper and deeper and try to understand that beneath and above, everywhere is the divine. When Isha Vasyamidam Sarvam, when the Rishi says everything is covered with the divine, this is what is meant. There is no place where he is not, where the Lord is not. He is under, below, he is also above. He is there everywhere. Vistarena Atmano Yogam. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. Now Sri Krishna starts his revelation. Hantate kathayishyami divyahyatma vibhutayah pradhanyatah kuru sreshta nastyanto vistarasya me. He addresses Arjuna as Kuru Shreshta. That means one of the best of the race of the Kurus. Kuru was a race, one of the races in those days, and he was considered to be the best because he had all these wonderful qualities. Physically he was one of the best, and then with his intellectually also he was the best, and of course when he fought he was the best. So he says, you are the best among all. So I shall declare to you my divine manifestations. But I shall mention only the chief among them. It is not possible for me to reveal everything to you. It's indeed difficult for us to know everything about the divine. How much can we do? We can only touch a little piece, that's all. A little edge of the divine, that's all that we can know. How much can, that's why Sri Ramakrishna used to say that there were many rishis in the past. They all went to the ocean. Some of them went near to the ocean and they were very satisfied just looking at the ocean. And some took a handful of water and then tasted it and they were satisfied. This is the ocean of immortal bliss. And then some went and brought a big container, took them and then enjoyed that for a longer period. But only one or two went and dived into the ocean and became one with the ocean. So very few of them became one with the ocean. So for most of us, the knowledge of the divine is just to look at what the divine is, just try to understand what it is. But if we want to dive deeper, it is very difficult. One day Sri Ramakrishna asked this question of Swami Vivekananda. He said, Naren, suppose, imagine that you are a bee and there is a cup with honey. The cup is full of honey. What would you do? So Naren said, well, I will sit on the brim of the cup and I will sip the honey. Sri Ramakrishna said, well, Naren, why is it that you would sit on the brim of the cup when there is so much of honey in it? Why don't you get inside the cup itself and then drink the whole lot of it? Naren said, Swami Vivekananda said, well, I am afraid that by jumping into the cup, I will drown. So Sri Ramakrishna said, my child, do not think that the ocean of consciousness will drown you. You are the very ocean. You are the very ocean. You just become one with it. But Sri Naren said, no. I want to keep my individuality. I want to have my individuality. So here he says, Santate Kathaishyam. It is just enough for us to understand a little bit. So, Kathaishyami Divyahi Atma Vibhutaya. See, the difference between the joy of the senses, that is the experience that we get while interacting with the world around us, and the joy of divine experience, divine consciousness, are two different, are of two different magnitude, we can say. See, the pleasure of the senses has a limit to enjoyment. See, if I have a good meal, after that you bring the best of all food, I would not be able to have any more of it. It's enough. I just cannot have any more of it. It is not possible physically for me to have it. So similarly, through all the five senses, whatever we taste or enjoy, all of that has got some limitations. After that, we cannot, even if our mind wants to have more of it, but our body cannot take it. But with the divine consciousness, the divine joy, once we start tasting it, we can go deeper and deeper and deeper into it. So Sri Krishna is, Arjuna is asking him, you talk to me all about your glories, divine glories, to which Sri Krishna says, well, you can only digest this much. I can only give you that as much as you can digest. I cannot reveal everything to you, otherwise it will become indigested. So I will tell you whatever is the divine glory, whatever is my divine glory. But once you go into it, you will yourself know what it is. See? Once you go deeper and deeper into yourself, you will yourself know. You need not be told about it. Sri Ramakrishna used to would tell an example, is to say, a little child while going to bed told his mother, Mum, I am now going to sleep, but when I have to pass water, please wake me up. The mother said, my child, I need not wake you up. The force of it itself will make you get up. In the same way, this force of the divine itself will wake us up. Once the divine enters into us, like the camel, the Arab's camel. It first, you know the story of the Arab camel. You know, the Arab had a tent, and he had a pet camel, which was his vehicle also. And so it was winter, and it was very cold. And he went and snugly sat inside his tent, and outside the camel said, "Well, master, you have kept me outside in this terrible cold. My nose, you know, is very sensitive. It's a very sensitive nose, and I will catch cold. So can I just let my nose inside your tent?" He said, "All right, that's what of that? You can let your nose get inside the tent." And then slowly, he said, "I feel quite warm, but my face is now suffering. So can I put my whole face inside it?" "All right, you can put your face." Slowly, the camel started bringing its own whole body inside the tent, and it said, "Now this tent is mine, now you get out." So, in the same way, when the divine enters into us, you know, when the divine thoughts enter into us, it will drive away all the other unnecessary, wasteful thoughts from our system completely, from our whole being. It just goes away, and only the divine stays over there. So here, 3. Krishna says, I will let you know. It's just enough for you to know a little bit, and once I reveal that much to you, you yourself will find that you have understood everything. Once you know the divine, everything else becomes known to you. Brahmavid, Brahma eva bhavati, knower of Brahman becomes Brahman itself, becomes the whole phenomena of the universe. That is the idea Sri Krishna is trying to impart here. Antate kathayishyami divyahi atma vibhutaya pradhanyata kuru sreshta na asti antaha. There is no end to my glories. There is no end to it. See, all of us, we Hindus chant the Sahasranamas, the 1000 names of the divine. So, just to try to describe the divine. But it is not confined to that 1000 or even 10,000 or 10 million names. It is much more. Glories are much greater than everything else. So we will take up the next verse, 20th verse, which is a very important verse. Sri Krishna says, Aham Atma Gudakesha Sarva Bhutashayastitaha Aham Adischa Madhyancha Bhutanam Anta Evacha. I am the self residing in the heart of every being. I am the Atman. I am your very being. I am the beginning, the lifespan, and also their end. We will take this up in greater detail next Sunday when we meet. Om Shantakaram Bhujagashayanam Padmanabham Suresham Vishwadharam Gaganasadrisham Meghavarnam Shubhangam Lakshmikantam Kamalanayanam Yogirithyanagamyam Vande Vishnum Bhavabhayaharam Sarvalokaikanatham. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sri Ram